Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game from this year's European Individual Championship. It's the man with the greatest hair in the chess world, Anton Korobov, versus former FIDE World Chess Champion Ruslan Ponomariov, and this game is just an absolute thriller to watch. It's hard to imagine that this is a classical game played in classical time format because the positions that you will see here are something that you would expect in in a bullet game, but they are, and it's just extremely complicated. So let's dive straight into it. Korobov with the white pieces opens with pawn to d4. We have knight to f6, c4. We have c4. We have pawn to e6, knight to f3, and d5. The queen's gambit declined. We have knight to c3, and now bishop to b4. Almost the Nimzo Indian, but not really. It's the Ragozin defense. We have queen to a4 check, knight to c6, and now pawn to e3. So all been played before, nothing new here. Bishop to d2, and this is where it gets really interesting. Here the standard move is d captures on c4 because you don't want to allow white to play pawn to c5. But that's exactly what Ruslan did here. Usually you play captures, and then you play bishop back to d6. But he went bishop back to d6 without first capturing on c4, and now pawn to c5 by Anton, bishop back to e7, and now pawn to b4, preparing pawn to b5. And it seems like Ruslan might have mixed up the move order, but it's so early on in the game that you don't really believe this. So he definitely prepared something. Knight to e4. We have pawn to b5, and now knight captures on d2. And there actually is a game that reached this exact same position. It was played in a game between Raham Mohamed Fahad and Mustafa Yilmaz, where last year was played where knight captures on d2 was played. But here Anton played king captures on d2, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. So here knight to b8, getting the knight out of harm's way, bishop to d3, nicely developing, and pawn to c6. Now we have rook 8 to b1, and c captures on b5. We have bishop captures on b5 and queen to c7, developing the queen nicely, rook h to c1, and now pawn to f6. The white rook is now also nicely positioned opposite the queen on the c file. We have bishop back to d3, now making room for the knight on b5, and now comes knight to c6. We have queen to c2, now putting pressure on the h7 pawn, pawn to f5, and now knight to b5, attacking the black queen, queen to b8, and now queen to c3. We have pawn to a6, chasing away the knight, and this is what Anton prepared with this weird queen to c3 move. He played knight to d6. He gives up a pawn, and it's very odd because this is a beautiful pawn. Bishop captures, pawn captures, queen captures, and now he plays rook to b6. And now, if you look at the position, it seems like what is white doing? He just gave up a very strong pawn. For what? Well, the problem is black can't really develop the queen side. So unless black figures out how to defend this pawn to get the bishop into the game, and how do you even get the bishop into the game? You can't get the rook into the game, and it's just a very big handicap for black. So here we have queen to d8. A very interesting way is pawn to f4 because you would really love opening up your f file. The problem is pawn to e4, and now okay, it's not all that much. If anything, this helps white open up Anton's light square bishop like this. So instead we have queen back to d8, attacking the rook, and now queen to c5. Korobov just keeps up the pressure, not allowing Ruslan to develop his pieces. Rook to f7. Now comes bishop captures on a6, winning back the pawn. And the idea is pretty simple. Okay, you can't capture because then nothing is defending the knight on c6. And if you capture, then rook captures again, nothing will be defending the knight on c6. And it's a very tricky line that isn't winning for white or anything, but it's just extremely complicated. And the way you have to play this with black is, okay, you could play what Ruslan played in the game, which is rook to c7, but the interesting way is pawn to g5. And now pawn to g4 is coming. And now look at this, pawn to a3, so you can move the bishop, and the a3 pawn will be defended. You don't want to allow something like rook captures on a2 check. g4, now knight back to e1, and bishop to d7. Bishop captures on b7, attacks the rook. Now comes rook to a5, attacks the queen on c5. Rook to b5, defending, and now comes knight captures on d4. And this is where everything just explodes. It's still a dead draw, but it's hard to see why. If rook captures the knight to b3 with a monster royal fork here, the queen, king, and the rook get forked, so that doesn't work. And if you try e captures on d4, then rook captures on b5, and after, well, the bishop is hanging, you can play something like queen to c7, but then rook b2 check, and now you can't block with the rook because it's a free queen. So king to e3, but now f4 check, king d3, bishop b5 check, king to c3, and now just rook captures on c7 check. White is down a queen, and white will get checkmated very soon. So you can't do that. So after bishop captures on a6, rook to c7 was played. He didn't go for that wild g5 line. Now comes knight back to e5. And okay, you still can't move the knight. Now the rook will also be hanging on c7. Queen to h4, putting pressure on the f2 pawn, and now just king back to e1 by Korobov, saying, yeah, it's move 26, I'm just gonna casually castle artificially on move 26. And here, the last attempt for black to save this game would be pawn to f4. It's a very strong threat, threatening f captures on e3, because the f2 pawn would be pinned. We would see something like knight back to f3, attacks the queen, queen goes back, bishop goes to d3, and now maybe f captures on e3, with some problems for white, as both a2 and f2 are hanging now. So this would be the way to play this. However, after king to e1, Ponomariov played queen captures on h2, and this is now a problem. Feel free to pause the video and try to find the only winning move for Korobov while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the idea, because it's extremely complicated to spot why it's even winning. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen to d6. An incredible move, and it still looks pretty weird. Yes, you're attacking the rook on c7, but why is it winning? Well, congratulations to everyone who spotted this, because look at this. Queen to g1 check, not king to d2, allowing queen captures on f2, but rather king to e2, and this is now a problem. Queen captures on c1, now comes rook captures on c6. The problem is you can't go after the rook. If you play queen captures on c7, then just knight captures on d4 with check, opens up a discovery, and you will lose the queen on c7. So instead, after queen captures on c1, rook captures on c6, and now if you play b captures on c6, this is just mate in one. The knight covers the f7 square. So instead, we have queen to b2 with check, king to f3, and now rook to f7. And here, pretty much anything is winning for Korobov. You could just capture with knight captures on f7, but Korobov decides to finish in style. He plays rook to c7, and there is no move black can make here. It's absolutely stunning position. The idea is, of course, if you capture, then you don't have a rook to block check, so queen d8 will again be checkmate. In the game, rook captures on a6 was played, but now, of course, it's just a nice mate in 2. Rook captures on c8 check was played, and he was in this position on move 32 that Ruslan Ponomariov resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Once you block with rook to f8, rook or queen captures on f8 will be checkmate. So a brilliant game by Anton Korobov in round 5 of the European Individual Championship. He goes up to 5 out of 5 after this game, and I've checked before I recorded this video. He got a very quick draw in game 6, so he's actually on 5.5 out of 6, but doing incredibly well on his way to becoming the European Individual Champion for 2023. It's still early on, but he's just crushing it. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Really a wild one. You know, every move was a delight to present. So hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Jordan Smith, Seshadri Rajan, Barry Day, Lobo, and Alejandro Maldonado, Revshin Graptal's YouTube for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and everything else that happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.